I have the pleasure of inviting Gregory Ubigen.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on this conversation. Talking about COVID, COVID is something that has become the best used word or most used word in the last year or so. And as it has affected everything in the world, remittances are no different. What we're seeing is the way and manner that remittances are being impacted with COVID is something that is worth talking about. But I like to look at things from where are the opportunities. Before I start, just like has been mentioned, I work in the remittance part of the business. And just some anecdotes. We've heard the stories of the rise in remittance and COVID cases in India. India is one of the biggest markets we have right now. And what we've seen in the last couple of days since the increases in COVID cases in India is the FX rate of other currencies to the Indian rupee has gone up. The value of the rupee has gone down compared to the US dollar, the GBP, and a few other currencies. And we're actually seeing, at least from our side, an increase in the volumes of funds being sent into India. I can't give a reason why, apart from there seems to be some correlation between the FX rates, and the rise in COVID cases. I'm not sure that is something to celebrate, but just an observation. Coming back to my presentation, I like to start. This is one of my favorite cliche statements, and it says there are three types of lies. There are lies, damned lies, and statistics. And the reason why I use this statement a lot is because when you look at statistics, somebody can look at a set of statistics and come up with certain deductions or inferences. Another person can look at a set of statistics and come up with a different set of inferences. I play in the stock market, and I feel that is one of the places where this statement comes true, because if people are looking at the same statistics and coming up with different inferences or deductions, that is the reason why some people are willing to buy a particular stock at a particular price, and other people are willing to sell at that price. And that's why you will always have winners and losers in different games. And so what I will show here are certain interpretations of statistics that I've looked at. I don't claim to be right or wrong. It's just my observation, and I'm happy to be challenged based on what I share, and the opinions are mine. So a look at what the known data that we have online on the internet says about remittances since COVID started. And what the data says is that flows into low and middle income countries have projected to have dropped 7.2% to 508 billion in 2020, and another 7.5% this year, going down to 470 billion in 2021. And these have been the sharpest declines in the history of remittances since records have been kept. And a lot of people agree that this is because of the impact of COVID and the resulting wage drops for a lot of migrant workers who are abroad and who typically will send the money home. What is interesting, coming back to the point about statistics and statistics being a version of a lie or a truth, is I observed that the source of most remittance data is the World Bank. but how does the World Bank collect and collate its own data? The World Bank claims to provide annual estimates based on the national balance of trade of payment statistics produced by the respective central banks. And this is in collaboration with the IMF. Now, when you think about that statement, and we think about quite a number of central banks in different parts of the world, there's another cliche statement that I have when I'm half Nigerian. Somebody asks you, what is the population of Nigeria? My joke reply to that statement is, who wants to know? You know, the population of Nigeria has many different answers depending on who is providing the answer and what is the reason for the question. So again, when we think about the statistics that are being collated by the World Bank, there's so much variance that could happen that depending on what is being looked at, some transactions could be classed as remittances and some transactions may not be. Could you please? Yeah, thank you. So what don't we know? So I've taken a few screenshots to show transactions that could be classed as remittances, but for which are probably not being tracked as remittances. So if you look here, this is a WhatsApp conversation where somebody is asking another person, possibly both of them based in the UK, and one person is saying, I want to give you Naira, GBP in your UK account, and you transfer Naira to an account that I will provide to you. Now, how will such a transaction be recorded? This transaction will actually be recorded as two unrelated transactions. On the one hand, there will be a faster cash transaction recorded in the UK, and on the other hand, there will be a clearing transaction recorded in Nigeria. I imagine that such a transaction would not be recorded in the central bank data and by deduction, the World Bank data on remittances. There's another point, screenshot here. Somebody has gone on Facebook and said, I've got $2,000 in my PayPal account. I need Nigerian Naira, any takers? And as you can see, there were 36 comments on that. I'm sure at some point the guy will agree to move the money, PayPal to PayPal, Naira to Naira. Again, not another transaction that would easily be recorded as a remittance transaction. And then you have a third, another one from Facebook. And then of course, this gives rise to what is known today as, in Nigeria as an example, the official rate and the parallel rate. And we know that the institutionalization of the parallel market has created an opportunity for arbitrage. No disrespect to Uju and the banking industry. I used to be one of the Nigerian bankers as well. But we all know that there is some arbitrage there where people are able to access foreign currency at a particular rate and resell that at a different rate. Otherwise, there would be no parallel market that needs to be managed. And we know that this is an ongoing challenge, not just in Nigeria, but in a lot of emerging markets where the government has to manage that variance on an ongoing basis between what it would like to see as the official rate of its currency with global currencies and what the laws of demand and supply outside of those official rates are saying could be the close to reality of the rates between the local currency and the FX currency. So the real truth is we don't know how much of inbound and outbound transactions that could easily pass for remittance transactions are being offered based on matched local currency transfers versus match FX transfers. So Naira to Naira, CD to CD, Kenyan shillings to Kenyan shillings, being matched by USD to USD bank transfers or USD to USD PayPal transactions. We don't know what that balance of trade transaction is. And that is something that if we factored in, would create a bigger picture of what is the true remittance value into and out of a lot of countries today. Now, based on what we know, how has COVID affected migrants? The data suggests that you have different categories of migrants in host nations. You have the legal residents, those who have a right to stay and are taking advantage of that right. And so within that category of residents, you have the essential workers. A lot of them are in the medical field. And through COVID, these have not necessarily suffered a loss of income. Their income might have reduced. I dare say it probably hasn't. And these ones are still able to send money home. Then you have the few like myself who are fortunate enough to have been allowed to work from home. I've been working from home for the last 6 years, even before COVID became a thing. And I know what it is to work from home, and people are taking advantage of technology today to do more work from home. Again, these ones, fortunate few as well, possibly can still send money back home. And then you have the category of people who, because they are legally resident or they are citizens, even though they are migrants at heart, in the countries where those are on offer, they can claim benefits. Now, such categories might have some challenges with how much they can send back home, and probably would see a lot of the impact here. Then there is also the descendants of migrants. And my theory is descendants of migrants may not necessarily have the emotional incentive or connection with their heritage back home for them to say they want to send money. I'm happy to be challenged by data that suggests otherwise. And then, of course, you have the illegal residents in the host countries. A lot of these do not have access to any form of cushions from the states that may have been thrown up because of COVID. And as such, these ones will be the most impacted in their ability to send money back home, and probably account for the drop in volumes that have been observed since COVID started and has impacted people. So what? At this point, what I'd like to do is flip the script away from the way remittances are being perceived today, which is mostly person-to-person transfers to cater for the needs of family and friends, beneficiaries back home, and to begin to create a personal challenge for all of us who are participating in today's session and anybody else that we interact with, to say, how can we use COVID as a way to flip the script and to think of opportunities that are resistant or able to overcome similar challenges that might occur, because we know COVID is the first of potentially, I don't mean this in a negative way, but we know that COVID is the first of potentially many viruses. There's a documentary that was done on Al Jazeera, I think it was, where they talked about quite a number of variants of viruses that are being recognized and seen in different parts of the world, mostly as a result of deforestation, urbanization of remote areas, and then, of course, the trafficking of animals that are called luxurious foods. And these create a great petri dish for new viruses that would potentially wreak more havoc in the future. So I think we all need to just prepare our minds that the worst is yet to come. I don't mean this in a doomsday way, but the more we are ready for these things, like the same way Bill Gates talked about a virus similar to what we're experiencing now years ago, but nobody paid attention, the more we would be better equipped to deal with similar situations in the future.